we are at 176 miles. Oh, we get another warning saying low battery. Right now, we are at 176 miles on the odometer, and we still have 20 miles of range remaining. Here we are right here, 176.8. We still have 20 miles of range remaining. Here's the unfortunate part, it's 21 miles to home. We may have screwed up. The straps didn't come out for right now. All right, today's gonna be a fun day with the E-Transit. We've got it 100% maximum charged, as much as it will charge. And we are gonna go spend the day driving it around, and we're gonna learn a little bit about how close its projected range is to its actual mileage that we're gonna get out of it. Today, the mileage that we're gonna be putting on it is a mixed use of in-town and highway mileage. In the future, we may break it down to all in-town mileage and all highway mileage, just to give you guys a comparison. I have a feeling that the thing's actually more efficient in town because of the regenerative braking, whereas when you're on the highway, you are all the time on the gas. So I may be wrong in that, we're gonna find out. But for right now, let's get this thing unplugged, and we are going to head out of town and run some errands in this thing and see. We've got thunderstorms going around town. There's lightning and thunder happen all over the place. So what a better day to play with an all-electric vehicle when we have electricity running around in the air. So stay tuned, hang out with us, and we're gonna have a lot of fun with this thing today. All right, we're in the van, ready to head out for the day. Let's fire it up and show you guys. Oh, our lights just turned off on in here. Let's turn these guys on. Okay, so we're in the van. We're getting ready to roll for the day. Let's check our mileage and everything here. So we've only, like, this van's so brand new. It's got 73.4 miles on it. It had like 25 miles on it when we bought it. So we've only put like 50 miles on it. Down here in the blue, it tells us our range. 103 mile range. So in a perfect world, according to its own calculations, we should be at 176 miles when we are empty on charge. We're not gonna run it that incredibly low, but let's just remember 176 miles puts us all the way down to empty. So I have a feeling we're gonna be able to get a little bit more than 103 miles out of this thing. So stay tuned, and we're gonna roll out. I don't know if I've got range sensing headlights or not on this thing. Doesn't look like it. Let's look at setting. Settings. Driver's assistance. SOC alert, I don't know what that is. Wipers. Now we need some tunes. The large backup camera screen is pretty nice. With this big tablet view, you've got quite a large backup screen, and of course it gives you the indicator lines and everything else. Kind of hard to see, again, because it's pouring down rain. Kind of hard to see, but the image quality is amazing. And another thing that you can do with it is you can get a full 180-degree view if you want. So this one's just a little bit more practical. And on the 180-degree view, you lose your backup line, so it lets you see a little bit more, but it's a little less functional. The electronic heat, having to run your heat like in the winter will take your battery life down a little bit, and so it will reduce your range. For the purpose of today, we're trying to avoid using the heater just so we can get a true representation of range. It's currently about 55 degrees outside. We shouldn't really need the heater, but we might need a little bit of defrost action. We are 10 miles into our journey, and we have already gained 1 mile against our expectation. We're 83 miles in, and our distance to empty is 94. So that would put us at 107 instead of 106. Initially, it's looking like we're going to get about maybe 10% better mileage than the initial range. So that doesn't sound like much, but that's quite a bit when you're already working with a fairly low number anyway. All right, so we've hit our first stop for the day, stopping by Best Buy to grab a couple of things. What we know for right now is we are almost 11 miles into our journey, and our distance to empty is now 94 miles. The initial math would have put us running out of battery at about 176 miles. Right now, 176 miles on the odometer. That would have meant we traveled 103 miles on this charge. Right now, that math is playing out to be, again, just 10 or 11 miles into the journey. That math is playing out to put us at about 178 miles. So we're gaining ground a little bit. It's looking like we're going to be closer to like maybe 110 or 120 miles to a charge instead of the initial 103. But time will tell, and we'll learn more throughout the day. All right, so we've left our first stop. We're on our way to our next stop. This next stop was supposed to be about 20 miles of highway there and 20 miles of highway home. We've gotten a couple of miles down the highway, and pretty rare for the Kansas City area, but we've got some pretty heavy traffic here. This doesn't happen often in KC, especially at 11:50 in the middle of the day. Right now we are still pacing for that approximate 105 mile range instead of the original 103 that we started at. We are still at 83 miles to empty. We've put on 20-ish miles or so, so we're 20% of the way through the 20% of the way through the range, and we've gained a couple of miles. In some of the early reports I've seen of these vehicles, people that are running with them empty, and we're empty right now. It is just me and one other person in the car. The people that are running them empty are seeing between like 110 and 120 as long as the weather conditions are okay, so they're not having to run the heater and the AC a whole lot. So, and that's about where we're at today. It was pretty mild weather condition. We'll keep driving along here and see where we land. Most of the reviews that are out there are some guy that was incentivized in some way to give his opinion on the unit. So one of the neat things about us being able to provide you guys this kind of feedback on the E-Transit is, up until now, a lot of the reviews and a lot of the feedback on the E-Transit are a little bit slighted. And what I mean by that is the people that have done the reviews have been incentivized in one way or another. Maybe that's their job, is to review things, and so they have an incentive there. Otherwise, maybe it's a person that was given the E-Transit to use for a certain amount of time, and possibly maybe even given some swag from Ford to possibly sway their decision. With us, we bought this with our own money. This was not a gift to us or anything else. It's not on loan. We have a very vested interest in the good performance of this vehicle, and if it doesn't meet our expectations, we're going to be very honest and transparent about that, because again, we shelled out the cash for the vehicle, and we have expectations that the vehicle needs to fulfill for us in our company. That was kind of the main driving force, to be able to give you guys some real world feedback from a real world buyer and user of the vehicle, rather than somebody who was just borrowing one for a couple of hours and incentivized to give a good review about it. So we've got you guys in mind as we're doing this. Sure.
You the boss or you the boss?
Yeah. Miles per gallon, right? This doesn't have that. It just says your average speed and your total miles traveled. We are down right at about halfway through our range. If you look right here, this is our fuel tank. We are halfway through our fuel. And then we started out with a range of 103 and we're down close-ish to halfway at 52, okay? Initially, the math would say we're kind of right on par. Here's the interesting thing though. Initially, if we added our odometer reading and our distance to empty, it would have come to 176 miles, okay? We had a distance to empty of 103 miles. The odometer registered 73 miles, okay? If the distance to empty was correct and we ran a full tank out, we would have gone 176 miles. If we add our distance to empty and our odometer reading together, we get 189 miles. We've gone from 176 to 189. We've added 13 miles to our range, and we're only halfway through the battery cycle. If that same theory holds out, we're actually going to be able to travel 26 miles farther than the original range indicated. That's going to push our original range from the original 103 to nearly 130 miles empty. Again, we are running empty right now, unloaded, but we're using this as a benchmark number. Obviously, we're going to keep running on this and see if the same theory holds true. The map is telling us where fuel stations are, but we're in an all-electric vehicle and we can't use those fuel stations. We are going to pull into the weigh station. We are going to get this bad boy weighed for you. We want to let you know exactly how much it weighs coming out of the factory. Give us a few minutes. We do have one box of things here in the back that weighs a little bit, so we're going to get that out. We'll get weighed up here and see exactly what this puppy weighs. All right, now we had this weighed. I wasn't in it, you weren't in it. This is literally as it comes from the factory. Total, we are 3,160 pounds on the front axle and 3,180 pounds on the rear axle. Total gross weight is 6,340 pounds. We'll come back and weigh this again after we get it completely loaded up for how we're gonna use it. We just learned something new. We're experiencing this with you guys. We just got an alert on our display that says the Pro Power Reserve setting is 2 miles of charge away. So this particular unit has the Pro Power Pack in the back. What the Pro Power Pack is it allows us to plug in power tools or anything that we need electricity for in the back of the unit. It provides a standard like residential style outlet in the back of the unit and a 20 amp circuit as well. Pretty much anything that you can plug into the wall in your house, you can run off of this Pro Power Pack. We are down to 40 miles of range left on a calculated 40 miles anyway. Now it's letting us know that we're getting low enough to where the Pro Power Pack won't work. It's making sure that you have enough energy to get back to a charger. That's pretty cool. It basically prevents you from running the battery to dead on the job to keep you from getting home. That's actually a pretty smart thing. Now I've programmed in the GPS my home, and we are 8.4 miles away from my house. Currently right now we are showing that we have 40 miles remaining on this charge. Again, the purpose of this video is to learn the real range. We're actually going to start driving farther away from my house and then just use these two measurements to make sure we don't get stranded, but we want to get a more realistic idea of exactly how far this thing will go. GPS is telling us to turn left to go home. We're actually going to get on the highway and go the other way, and it's going to promptly tell us to like turn around. See, it just recalculated and it's telling us to turn around. We're using this so we can compare. So now we're 16 miles of route away from home, and we are still 40 miles remaining on the charge. So we're going to keep driving the wrong way on purpose, just so we can see how many miles we get out of this one charge. We just ignored GPS again, and now we have to go all the way down to the next exit, 24 miles before we get home, and our distance to empty is 36 miles. You never know, we might just get stranded on this trip. So we've got 161 miles on the odometer. We still have 30 miles of range left. So that's a total of 191 overall miles gained on this trip. We started with 173, so our range is still continuing to improve on this trip. I have no clue. I've never been here before. I have no clue where we're going. Look at this. Look at this. All right, so we've got another new revelation. We just ignored GPS again, and currently right now we have 26 miles before we're out of juice. For a moment, it told us down here that we had 28 miles to go, and then this warning popped up. Recharge will be required for this trip. How would you like to add chargers? So it's asking us if we want to put chargers onto this trip. Let's put automatically. We're out in the middle of the country. There's nothing around here. Like, we're going to have a heart-to-heart conversation with a cow if we break down. But we're going to go ahead and put chargers being added automatically, so that way we can be aware of where chargers are. But right now it says we are 27 miles from home, and we have 26 miles of juice remaining. We might have just royally screwed up. Know where a guy can find some electricity around here? Going downhill, we'll grab some juice while we can. One of the neat things with this E-Transit is we have our standard speedometer on the right side of the dashboard, but on the far left side, we have a gauge that is a percentage of power gauge. And that percentage of power is both how much we're putting power into the electric motor, but then also when we let off the gas or get on the brakes, it's a percentage of power that's coming back into the battery and charging in the battery. If you look at the gauge, I'm mildly on the gas right now, and I'm using maybe 5% power to travel 40 miles an hour, okay? If I give it more power, you see the percentage of power increase. Now here's the neat thing. If I let off the gas, the needle goes into the green. Right now it's actually charging the battery, okay? If I get back on the gas, the needle comes back up to neutral. Now, when I barely tap the brakes, the needle goes way into the green, and now we're using the generator to slow the transit down and give a little bit of juice into the battery while we're at it. This does a couple of things. It can extend your range on the E-Transit, but it also saves you on your brakes. And if you've owned any of the other Ford Transits, you'll know that brakes are kind of an expensive repair on them because they have like a 1-ton brake, and so you have to pull the axles to do brakes. So that repair is pretty expensive. That's one of the features that I was actually looking forward to with the E-Transit, is hopefully that means more time in between brake jobs. Another warning. Our nearest charger is now outside of our range. Plan to find a power outlet where you can charge. It's basically telling us that we're not gonna make it to a charger, and so we gotta find somebody's electricity to borrow in order for us to get home. Oh, look, now our other gauge is moving. All right, we have 1 mile to empty, and now our max power, so this gauge has been on full the entire time, and now it is dropping down. So this is like your reserve tank over here. Depleted battery, safely stop now. We're like half a mile from my house and we might not make it. So that little reserve tank is like getting you home or getting you off the road safely. So it's when you run it down to 0, and we're at 0 right now. 0 miles remaining. Let's cancel this route. So we are at 0 miles of juice remaining. We're half a block from my house. Let's hope we can make it up this last hill. We gotta watch out and not run over the dog that's too lazy to get out of the way in the driveway. Still got some rain spots on the rear view camera. All right, we made it. That was close. We literally ran it down to 0 miles remaining on the charge, and we got the warning on the dash. We've cleared it off now, but we got the warning on the dash that said, safely pull over, you have no juice left. Total download on everything we just did. We started out with 73 miles on the odometer. It said we had a 103 mile range, which should get us to 176 miles. Look at the odometer now. We're at 197.6, so we were able to go 21 miles farther than what the original range indicated. So if my math is correct, that's 124 miles to a charge on an empty transit and a half mix use between half highway and half city. That's not too bad. Real quick, it should give us an estimated time for how long it's going to take to charge. We've actually got 2 chargers. I've got the factory supplied wall outlet charger here. It's the slowest way to charge it. But over behind you on the wall, I've also got a Ford level 2 charger installed. That is the absolute fastest way to charge it in your home. So just because we've ran it all the way down to 0, this is a perfect opportunity to learn how long it takes to charge. Currently, right now, it is Friday afternoon at 3:54 in the evening, or Friday afternoon at 3:54. Call it 4 o'clock on Friday. We've run this battery all the way to 0. We're using the slowest charger available from Ford, plugged into the wall. Our battery is currently at 1% because we ran it all the way down to 0. We just plugged it in. And it is telling me that it will be 100% at 6 p.m. on Monday. It's Friday at 4. So to go from 0 to fully charged on a standard wall outlet, we've got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then another 2 hours. So it will take 3 days and 2 hours to completely charge the E-Transit from a standard wall outlet if you are 100% depleted. I'm gonna say the standard wall outlet is not the most efficient way to go. Now, let's try our Ford level 2 charger. And I've got this one set to the max amperage it can put out. So let's see how long it'll take to go from 0 to fully charged on this. Right, so now that we have the Ford Level 2 charger plugged in, again, this is the fastest way to charge it from Ford. Now that we have that charger plugged in, it is currently Friday at 4 p.m. and it is telling us that it will be 100% charged at 11 p.m. tonight. Much faster charging with the Level 2 charger. So, if you really want daily usage out of the Ford E-Transit, you are going to need to invest in a Level 2 charger. That gives you the full range of mileage throughout the day and the fastest recovery time throughout the evening. Also remember, this unit charges the slowest from 0% to 20%. It charges the fastest from 20% to 80%, and then it'll slow down the charging again, topping it off on that last 80 to 100%. Still, from 4 o'clock to 11 o'clock, that's not bad at all to go from 0 to a completely charged. You could realistically drive this thing all day long, plug it in every night, and you are good to go.